Okay.
So this is top 5 poker misconceptions.
Okay. Top 5 poker misconceptions. The top 5 poker misconceptions. So, number one, not because it's actually practically that big of a deal, but because it's the number one thing that you get asked that does not make sense if you know poker is people say, "Oh, so you're a poker player, so you count cards." And counting cards is a blackjack thing. It's that you keep track of the cards that have come out of the shoe because that means you know that there's less of a certain thing left to be dealt later, and that you adjust your bet because of that. In poker, you just play one hand, the deck gets shuffled again. You don't see cards to count. Actually, you see your cards and you see the board, and so there's no counting. There is strategy. There's a lot of strategy, but it has nothing to do with counting cards. And I personally, I don't get annoyed when people ask me that. A lot of people get annoyed when they get asked that. I think it's funny, but just by sheer magnitude of, or I guess sheer frequency of that coming up, that's number one misconception. So number two is another thing that as a pro poker player, especially early in your career, you get told a lot. So let's say I would say, okay, so I'm a semi-pro and I've been winning whatever. I made $50,000 last year. What the person would then say is, okay, well, you should quit before you lose it. Because again, that's kind of advice that you would hear in casino games or sports betting where most people don't have an edge. I mean, actually in poker, most people don't have an edge, but there are not as many professionals. And some games are actually just not beatable. And so the logic of, okay, well, you've won some, quit while you're ahead, makes a little bit of sense there. But actually what makes sense there, if you're thinking from an expected value perspective, is to never play in the first place, because you're going to lose on average from the beginning. And after winning, you still are. After losing, you still are. It's just how it works. But I mean, this is a tangent, but people gamble for fun mostly. Obviously, some people have a sickness and it's very dangerous for them. But most people who can gamble responsibly do it for fun, much like you would go pay to see a movie or pay for other types of entertainment. So I don't think it's wrong to gamble if you can do it responsibly. Well, off topic though. Okay. Third misconception, and I touched on this in a previous video, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. But third misconception is that when you play live poker, there are a lot of things that you can read and process. So you can, if you're a good poker player live, you can get an advantage. But online, you're just gambling because you can't see them. That's very far from the truth. And I guess just watch the video where I talked about it if you don't agree with me or you'd like to learn more. Number 4 is an interesting one because it's changed a bit over the years. Number 4 is, when I started playing poker, the perception of a poker player from the public, a pro poker player, was so negative because everybody just thought of, really just a degenerate gambler that, was not approaching it responsibly, was a mess. And, they happened to be winning for a while, so they call themselves a pro. That's changed over the years, in large part due to online poker and kind of my generation of poker players who started from, because before online poker, the people that would get into poker were people that were around gambling, would get into gambling. And plenty of them were great people who were responsible. But a lot of times the kind of associations you make with people who are career gamblers would be true of career poker players too, because that's how people found poker. They were in that world. Online poker opened it up to the entire world. And so you had people like myself who were in college and just playing poker on the side. Lots of people who were, had careers and were playing poker on the side. And then it became, due to the way that they approached it and their abilities, it became their real job. And so I think over time that's changed because it's been so long that people, I'm 36 now and I was 19 when I started playing. And so, yeah, it's been a while since the world has become more aware, I guess, of the types of people that can be pro poker players. But that's still made number 4 for some reason. So I think number 5 is that, being a pro poker player is a very glamorous lifestyle, which I understand why that perception is out there. And the reality is, probably in a lot of careers that you view as glamorous, it's not nearly as glamorous and it's a lot tougher than you think. I don't think that's specific to poker, but poker is a tough career. Most people that can do it for a while end up not being able to make it long term. And most people who play poker as a career are earning like a kind of, average wage. They're not, able to retire whenever they want. It can be a grind and it can be really difficult compared to, I'll just give some disclaimers after. So it can be really difficult because in most traditional jobs, almost all of them, I think, you can't have a losing month at your job. You can't lose money. You can't work for a month and get an anti-paycheck. And in poker, you can, and it can happen for a whole year. And so it's a lot more like running a business than it is having a job. You're running a business of one. It's just you. And you're investing in your success. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That said, I've known a lot of poker players who were burnt out, were way too stressed, just we're sick of it. And we're doing reasonably well, but we're just like, this, this is too hard of a life. And some would go back to school or some would go get a real job. And a lot of them came back to poker and said, I didn't realize how good I had it. Real jobs are hard. So I think that there are elements to it. It's like I said, it's a lot like running a business. There are elements that are great. In control of your hours, you have that freedom. You're in control of kind of the level of risk you take, and you have the ability to, you don't have to report to anybody. And so you don't have all the feelings that come along with that and the frustrations that come along with that of, I think I'm doing a great job here and I'm not getting recognized. In poker, if you do a great job, barring some variance, you do get recognized, you get rewarded for it. And that's something I love about poker. But there are also the bad parts, and it can be really emotionally draining, really stressful, and really tough.